Aquaman number 25, written by Jeff Johns, art by Paul Pelletier. So this is actually Jeff Johns' last issue. I was unaware of that when I was going in, but yeah, definitely is. So last issue, we had basically, hey, who is the dead king? And why does he matter? And turns out he was Atlan, first king of Atlantis, maybe. And he was killed by Aquaman's ancestors, who was his brother. And turns out that he united the seven seas, quote unquote, which included the Atlanteans, the Zebellians, and the Trench. And it all was because of his scepter. So we see Aquaman going down off the coast of Spain. And he's basically asking Volko, like, hey, what happened in the 6 months I was out? And he's like, I don't know. I wasn't keeping track of the surface world. But regardless, now you're back. You need to go and take out the dead king. And Aquaman's showing some doubts because, like, oh, yeah, I'm descended from the person who took him out the first time. Like, is that really something I should be doing again? Just like, yeah, no, totally. And then they talk about, like, okay, we know 3 of the seas are Atlanteans, Zebellians, and the Trench. And I'm a bit weirded out by the Trench being one of those because they're so non-human. Like, what creatures could the other 4 seas be? And Volko basically says, like, look, I spent decades trying to find them. They're extinct. They're gone. You don't have to worry about them. And he's like, okay, but what if you're wrong? So at this point, they make their way to a pirate ship. Or a sunken pirate ship with a whole bunch of treasure in it. Aquaman punches through the floor and pulls out the Dead King's scepter, which he hid here. And he's like, yep, so we're going to use this, and hopefully it should allow us to command the Trench, which we can then use to launch like an attack on the Dead King. So they make their way down into the Trench. And Volko apologizes. He's like, hey, look, I'm sorry for like manipulating you. He's like, look, if you're really sorry, you just got to put yourself back in jail once all this is done. Like, that's the thing. And Aquaman also says, the only thing I want here, it has nothing to do with like Atlantis or whatnot. I just want to find Mara. And he's just like, no, you don't understand. I didn't pick you because of your bloodline or whatever. I backed you because you are a good person who can bring peace to both land and sea. And he's just like, okay, whatever. So the Trench show up. They start charging after Aquaman. He flashes the trident, says like, all right, stop. They keep charging. He's like, stop, please. And then everything goes black. So we cut over to Atlantis. Dead King is talking to Nereus from Zebel, and Nereus starts giving his address, and he's like, whoa, head of a, you gotta kneel before the king, Nereus. So Nereus gets down on a knee, and he's just like, well, you sent us looking for the remaining kingdoms. They don't exist. The other seas are gone. Just like, they must have moved. They're in hiding. Got to go track them down anyway. I will reunite the 7 seas. They will be mine. And then Nereus like chimes up being like, dude, we're going to stop hunting for ghosts. They're all dead. It's been thousands of years. And he's like, oh, but you forget I have your precious Mara imprisoned. You better obey me or else you're going to end up like her. Or I'll just kill her. One way or the other. So Nereus makes his way over to where Mara's being held. Turns out she's being kept in a completely dry room, no water at all. Hasn't been watered in 2 days. And it's because every time she gets even a drop of water, she uses it to either A, try to escape, or B, attack the guards. And Nereus is like, hey, if you promise to marry me, you can get out of here. It's get out of jail free card. And Mara's like, I will never marry you. And if you do ever let me out of here, I'm going to kill you. That's how it's going to work out. So at that point, the wall starts shaking. And wouldn't you know it, it's Aquaman leading all the sea creatures and the Trench on an attack on Atlantis. First thing he does, he breaks into Mara's cell. Water fills it up. She's just so happy to see him. And then Nereus is like, oh, don't let Mara go. She belongs to me. And Mara's like, no, I don't. And starts just attacking all the rest of them. So once that battle's done, Arthur turns to Mara and it's like, look, hey, I really want to be next to you. And I promise I always will be from here on out. But like, I got to go help Atlantis real quick. So I'm going to go do that. And she just says, be careful. Real quick, he breaks into a prisoner thing where Tula, SWAT, and the last guy, I keep forgetting, the guard guy, they're all imprisoned. And they're just like, oh, we're so sorry, King Arthur. And he's just like, hey, no problem. You didn't think of me a king. I didn't really earn it. I promised to earn it going forward. So at that point, the dead king comes forward and just be like, hey, I'm already king of Atlantis. How dare you try to claim that? And he's like, nah, man, you ain't king. You're enslaving your people. What kind of king needs to enslave his own people? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Someone who's been betrayed a lot. That's kind of a thing that makes sense. So Volko comes in to try to help, and he gets swatted away almost instantly. Aquaman gets stabbed with his own trident. He's like, "You're not the king, you will never be." And he grabs the dead king's scepter, and he's like, "Even the trench are attacking me. I have been betrayed by all. Well, I'm going to do the thing I did last time. I sunk Atlantis before, I'll do it again." And he's about to stab his trident into the ground of Atlantis, but then Aquaman manages to grab it with his bare hands, which sends this like huge ripple of electricity throughout all around Atlantis. And everyone sees it and they're like, "Oh my God, Arthur is so cool." So at that point, he's basically just trying to talk down the dead king. He's just like, "Look, I know what my family did to you, but Atlantis is not your enemy." He's like, "Yeah, they are. They're literally all attacking me right now. You're all kind of dicks." And he's like, "All right, fair enough." So Aquaman punches dead king a few times, managed to throw him down into like some hot magma pools down at the base. And when he gets down there, the dead king is pinned down to the pool and his trident is being held at his throat by Aquaman. They both start melting. And as the scepter melts, the trench just kind of bail. And they're like, "Oh, okay, scepter's gone," and they don't have to obey anymore, so I guess they're just gone. And then the dead king, as he melts away, says, "I'm finally going to see my family again." And it seems like Arthur is also going to be caught up in the magma pools, but he manages to get out. And when he does, he's presented his trident again, and he's standing with Mera, and everyone's like, "Hooray, King Arthur, he's back." So we get the reveal, Nereus bailed. The rest of the Zebellians are out of the city. Atlantis is starting to rebuild ever so slightly. And he's just like, "Great, awesome. They can handle themselves," says Mera. "Let's go." And Arthur's like, "I think I should stay and be their king." And Mera's like, "You don't want that. You've never wanted to stay here and be their king." And he's like, "Right, but like, it's my responsibility. I gotta do that." And she's like, "You're not going to be happy doing that." And he's like, "I will be happy if you stay with me." "Huh? Yeah?" And she's like, Nah, I can't. I'm out." And tearfully, she just swims off and away. So we see up on the surface Amnesty Bay. She's getting her dog back from the dog sitter and just be like, "Yeah, no, here's his bed. Brought along some guests. I'm really going to miss him. I'm really going to miss seeing your dog Salty here. He was such a good dog. I'm going to miss him." And Mera just looks all sad. And we go down to Atlantis, and Arthur is sitting alone on his throne, and all of a sudden there's a shadow over him as he's all sad. And wouldn't you know it, it's Mera. She showed up again, and she sits in the throne next to him and says, "Shave the beard." And Aquaman smiles and says, "Sure, all right." And everything's all happy. Finally, epilogue. We're up in Louisiana. All the power's out. It's a stormy night. And we see Orm is staying with a family, a single mother and a son, who he met during Forever Evil. And she's basically saying like, "Oh, hey, my son can't get enough of your stories. Are you sure you can't stay?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't stay here because I'm a terrorist. And like, if anyone found out I was here, you'd be put in danger. But like, this isn't my home world. I don't know. I'm torn." But before he can make any decisions, the wall blows down. And in steps Nereus, saying, "Hey, I'm Nereus, king of the second sea. You're Orm, technically king of the first sea as far as I care. And I lied when I said that we couldn't find the other seas. I found them. And therefore, you and I will take our place amongst the kings of the seven seas. We will rule this planet once more. And story will be continued in the Justice League super event, Rise of the Seven Seas." Which never happens. Oh, Jeff Johns, don't write checks you can't fill. So yeah, this plot point never comes back, and Jeff Johns is off of Aquaman, so we just never see what happens with that. Or maybe we do. Maybe it's in a throwaway line where it's like, "And then Nereus got amnesia." Beyond that, I mean, solid ending. I do think it wrapped up a little bit quick, where it was just, "Hey, I have the trench and therefore I win," because that doesn't seem like it should be that easy, you know? Like, the trench were not insignificant to beat, but it was still just beaten down by Aquaman. It didn't feel like it was that hard to get rid of the entirety of them. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a fine last ending. I got completely caught out by the Mera bait and switch. Like, I didn't know how much was left in the book as I was reading it, because obviously there's like art stuff in the back of these trades. Yeah, I thought for sure she was actually gone. So good on you. Got me there. Overall, I'd say this is probably, I'll say it's an 8. It's just shy of that 8.5. I think it is just a bit too easy of an ending. I think that maybe this should have been, you know what the problem was, is like there was all that stuff of like, oh, Scavenger was attacking and all this other stuff. It felt like it was just kind of too many plots going on at once. And again, they should have been focused on this part of it, the Dead King and the Seven Seas and stuff. And it feels like he only realized he wanted to do that last issue. And now we're finally just wrapping it up. It feels like a lot's been dropped, but it's still solid run by Jeff Johns. Best Aquaman that I've read. Obviously, it's good the whole way through, and definitely give it a read if you haven't, because it has been significantly better than most iterations of Aquaman.